So Smeth has just released an article about his relationship with Mr. Girl. It's called Becoming Max, subtitled The Assassination of Max Carson by the Coward Smeth. Why is that monitor just turned off? There we go. It's back now. So I just... Why? I get it, man. I understand the vibe of all the Mr. Girl. So let's all talk about our feelings in a really honest way that puts other people off. But why let your entire career be defined by this other dude? Why do that to yourself? Anyway, let's get in. Let's give it a read. Let's see what we think. I'm often compared to Max Carson, Mr. Girl. Usually it's said dismissively. Being compared to Max is a bad thing that you should avoid, yet here we are. It's not even that it's necessarily a bad thing that you should avoid. It's that even when people who like Max are comparing you to Max, it's being done negatively because you're not Max. You're not as good as Max. You just seem like someone who's trying to imitate Max. That's the Like, if you were trying to do something more of your own, it might be, you might get the comparison less. But you allow yourself to be defined by it repeatedly. Like, this is just more of the same. Like, you couldn't have just got these thoughts out in your letter to him, like that you put on the subreddit. We couldn't have just done this all in one go and then moved on from the Skinwalker allegations. I don't know, man. Right off the bat, this essay might remind you of Max. You're probably reading it on Substack. I stole that from him, and he probably stole it from someone else. It's a good idea. A composer does not imitate, he steals. Immature artists copy, great artists steal. Good artists copy, great artists steal. Okay. Okay. Listen, no one's saying... Everyone takes inspiration and takes tips on how to produce content from people who are more successful or doing something in the way that they want to be doing it. But there's a difference between complete imitation and skinwalking and like inspiration and taking elements, incorporating them into a wider original piece. Taking influence rather than imitating. If you Google derivative, you get this definition. Typically of an artist or work of art, imitative of the work of another person, and usually disapproved of for that reason. It wasn't always bad to be derivative. This started during the modern art movement, when novelty became the most important thing. Today, new and exciting artwork instantaneously becomes old news. This attitude emerged alongside consumerism. It's an ideology that defines art as a commodity. The customer is always right, and artists are like annoying pests that inhibit your ability to freely consume their products. It's not... No. Smeth, just not everyone is a completely overwrought artist who revels in the label and the vibe of artistry and the image of artistry. That's the issue. It's pretense. It's pretentious. Okay. We venerate novelty, but we reject transgressiveness. That's not necessarily true. Throughout history, people with creative new ideas are despised and mocked by their peers. They fight for their ideas to be accepted, but few of them live to see that day. People are averse to creativity because it leads to change. 9 times out of 10, change leads to negative outcomes. It's dangerous. That's Max in a nutshell. Is it? Is it? Okay. Not really, but sure. If you agree with the above definition of derivative, you will never be a great artist unless by sheer dumb luck. To be great, you must steal. I mean, yeah, you absolutely have to take inspiration from people and learn from people who are better than you. Absolutely, yes. But that doesn't mean that you have to allow your entire being to be defined by the work of someone else. These are two different things. These are two different things. If someone does something that inspires you, it becomes part of you. You improve upon it, you make it your own. Yes, that's true. Yes, this is true. But that's not what people are accusing you of doing. People are not saying that because you take elements of Max, it's some kind of problem. People are saying that you take Max whole cloth, that you're defined by your relationship to and experiences with Max. And obviously, it's the Always Sunny clip here with Danny DeVito's Ongo Blogian, whatever the fuck the character's name is. Going, derivative. We don't need to play it because I think it's copyrighted. And he's got Slim Shady lyrics here. Okay. Max is not the real Slim Shady. Jesus Christ. His rap songs sound like they were written by Eminem. That's not quite true, but there is certainly some inspiration in there. In many of his videos, he mimics Mr. Plinkett from Red Letter Media. That's probably true to some extent, yeah. He follows in the footsteps of other YouTubers in structure, style, and subject matter. Absolutely, yeah, of course. When Max started streaming, Destiny was his mentor. Yep, inspired by Destiny, Max made streams more colorful. He copied the debate format and he made it his own. Yes, yeah, no one thinks. I don't believe anyone thinks that any of this stuff is truly novel. Again, he's like totally missed the point. Unless maybe this is all just he's building his argument here. It's all going to become clear to me very soon how actually Smeth is a misunderstood genius. And he's not just copying this to go a whole cloth. It's not just a lame imitation. He does have something original of his own to bring to the table. And I'm gonna look a complete retard by the end of this. But so far, this is a really bad response to the sort of things people say about him. Kenny says, I would still say Mr. Girl steals Eminem's cadence. Kenny would steal, but he's saying that Mr. Girl steals Eminem's cadence sometimes, but not his writing. I think, yeah, that's probably true. Yeah. He stole a lot of ideas from Destiny, but Destiny stole very little from Max. Destiny isn't interested in creating art. He's interested in maximizing the value of his product. He surrounds himself with orbiters who copy him, and it makes him look like a genius. I mean, would you ever have Smeth on to talk about this? I mean, if he really wanted to. I don't find, if he wants to sit here and talk about fucking art, I don't find that very interesting. I like just looking at how he's responding to the criticisms. But he probably wants to sit here and fucking rant about what it means to be an artist, because that's like 90% of his fucking conversations about this. That's what this whole essay is, but sure. Max and I have a creative back and forth. Sometimes it may seem like my work was inspired by his, but I notice when his work was inspired by mine. For instance, after my video, Your Narcissist Boyfriend Abused Me Too, I started using personality disorders as a framework for discussing behavior. Now he does it too, and this goes both ways. I mean, that's pretty common, isn't it? Has he spoken to Max? Has he asked Max if Max took that from him? Because that seems pretty common. I don't know that you would, and you could interpret that's been taken from there. Max has a lot of power over me. He rarely criticizes my work because he doesn't want to exercise that power. Meanwhile, I critique his work as much as I want. Sometimes this makes me feel very guilty. In 2019, before I knew Max existed, I experimented with streaming and called into a few shows. The types of conversations I wanted to see simply didn't exist. I told Pixie that debates were counterproductive and that progressives need to be more empathetic if they want to reach conservatives and Trump voters. I told another streamer that race play is a natural response to racism and that Bernie Sanders was a better advocate for black people than most black politicians. At the time, I decided against streaming because streamers didn't want to have these conversations. I think, I mean, if they didn't, they're retarded, but sure. I think the issue is more that you probably couldn't take the heat, and that Mr. Girl made you feel a bit more emboldened to say things that were going to piss people off in that way. I'm already Max. This sounds like a DGG. It's great. Maybe this is all a performance art piece, and what Smeth is really trying to do here is hold up a mirror to the average DGGer and show what it would be like if you displayed the mind of the average Destiny fan, but replaced Destiny with Mr. Girl and just had it all out in public. This has got to be... This is actually a performance art piece, and I've completely missed the point the whole time. Smeth's actually a genius. I'm already Max. I'm actually just like Destiny. When my intro to psych teacher asked us why we chose our class, my classmates gave me answers like, I want to help people. I said, everyone here is either mentally ill or wants to learn how to manipulate people. Oh my god, it's so deep, bro. Oh my god. So deep. So deep. I mean, I say this on stream every time therapists come up. Oh. Same, Smeth. I'm vibing with Smeth on this one. The word people used to describe me was intense. I've been there, bro. I've been there. I had provocative discussions with my peers, asking if they were pedophiles for being attracted to someone 3 or 4 years younger. I've been there, bro. Jesus. The night before my 18th birthday, I took nude photos of myself and then bragged about it to my friends and teachers at school. Oh, man. Inspired by Egon Schill, I would draw nude portraits of myself and bring them to art class for critique. I also painted giant vaginas like George Keith because the feminists didn't appreciate when a man did it. I was suspended 5 times in elementary school for doing normal kid things, and the cops were called multiple times to scare me. The ACLU never came to save me. Okay, this sounds slightly inaccurate. So I never felt the same sense of trust in the American system that Max felt. Like, what's doing normal kid? What does this mean? What's this mean, Smeth? Suspended 5 times for normal kid things, and the cops were called multiple times. Mr. Girl was not... He was not punished for doing normal kid things. He was punished for what was it? Saying that he was going to shoot up a school. Or saying that he sometimes felt like... That everyone sometimes felt... Don't we all? Sometimes feel like doing something drastic and terrible. And for saying... What was it? That he wants to go and catch Asian people in butterfly nets. Or some shit. I can't remember what. It was in that fucking article he wrote about anti-Asian racism or some shit. Jesus. I'm like in the wrong position here. Okay, there we go. All right. He wasn't put in his place until college when they arrested him for empathizing with school shooters. I grew up fairly close to Amherst, Massachusetts when Max grew up. It was a lot more progressive by the time I got there. I see Max as an alternate reality version of myself, an older Smith that had more support going into young adulthood, whose college didn't almost trans him, and who wasn't a smothered only child that grew up in a trailer. That's why I look up to him. That's why I participate in the memes about him being my dad. He's a 38-year-old Jewish Smeth. Along the way, I got more and more fucked up and numb. College did a lot of work, and so didn't living with my parents. So did not living with my parents. Okay, well, yeah, kinda. It's kind of rough phrasing. Whatever. Now at 30, I'm putting the pieces back together, same as Max. I always forget that Smeth's 30. I've kept this narrative to myself because of the time Max compared Eldrazi to Bob from the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. I listened to this conversation while stirring a galvanized tub of pumpkin guts and oatmeal, getting ready to bathe in primordial ooze for the Halloween show.
There. Yeah, I think if there's any part of it, the parts of you that I probably hate are the parts that remind me of myself.
There's an obligation that I'm supposed to save your life. That anytime you're lost or confused, I'm supposed to be there. And life sucks. Your life always will deteriorate and fall apart and end, because that's just what happens to everybody. And so I will fail that obligation. Eventually, I will have experience in your mind a fall from grace. You'll be like, well, he didn't tell me about it. He wasn't here for this. And I think the hatred will grow.
I think that
Although there's truth to his words, he's saying them because he's scared. Max spins admiration to a bad thing. He's filled with guilt, and he believes that you'll inevitably hate him. He's right. Death and suffering are inevitable. But warning Drazi won't change that. Admiration is hard for Max to accept. If he commits suicide, I'll hate until the day I die. If he becomes a drug addict, I'll hate him a little less. I felt angry at my father for getting old and feeble. Was he always so pathetic, or is this new? The thought of Max having kids scares me. I'm not ready to have them. I'm not ready for Max to have them either, but that's life. Our parents usually keep having kids. Eventually they die. We either have kids or we don't. And then we die too. It's a real letdown, but it won't stop anyone from looking up to you. I've avoided comparing myself to Max because of this scene from the assassination of Jesse James by coward Robert Ford, where Jesse accuses Robert of secretly being out to get him. I've never seen this movie. I don't get the references. I guess we'll read the quote. Well, if you'll pardon my saying so, I guess it is interesting in many ways you and I overlap and whatnot. I mean, you begin with our daddies. Your daddy was a pastor at the New Hope Baptist Church, and my daddy was a pastor at the church in Excelsior Springs. Oh, it's just so funny to me. You're the youngest of 3 James boys, and I'm the youngest of 5 Ford boys. Between Charlie and me, there's another brother, Wilbur, and 6 letters in his name. And between Frank and you, there's another brother Robert with also 6 letters. And my Christian name is Robert, of course. You have blue eyes, I have blue eyes. You're 5'8", tall. I'm 5'8", tall. Me, I must say the list as long as your night shot was 12, but I seem to have lost some curiosities over the years. Bob superficially compares himself to Jesse, but they have little in common. I formed my relationship with Max trying to not be like Bob, but it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. The superficial comparisons began to stack up, while my true feelings remained hidden. It wasn't until I started expressing myself that I was able to control my own narrative. I was complicit, but I also blame Max. Jesus. He's a lot more like Jesse James, than I'm like Robert Ford. Okay. Comparing yourself to Max is scary in 2 ways. First, a lot of people hate him. He's a brand risk. On the other side, Max isn't fond of his own reflection. If the comparison is substantial, he'll be terrified. It's not that he doesn't desire connection, he yearns for it. This is like, why have, I understand this is, okay. You know, all the Mr. Girl people want to do this. They want to write their little emotional essays about each other and go for it, but this is not for me. This is not for me. This is not good. Jesus. I just don't think I would never personally even sit there and think about it like this. Like, oh yeah, I think this person just really yearns for connection. They just really yearn. They're terrified of their own reflection, but they yearn for connection. I wish I could be there. I wish I could be there to be that connection. Like, oh, okay. If you're Max, oh wait, it's that he needs to protect you from his greatest bugaboo, himself. If you're Max, there is no winning. In some ways, Max is a good role model. He's also not.
I think that this is a big problem in my mental health. That, okay, intelligence and figuring
Yo, thank you for the gifted, John Sanchez. Thank you.
things out about the universe or about anything. The people around you, the system, the Destiny Sphere, Lex Friedman, my own audience, Shaylin, just whatever it is. Your brain tries to understand its environment socially, scientifically, whatever. But when it does that, it does that in response to fear. Being disoriented is unpleasant and unsafe, and it's scary. You're like, I don't know what's going on, so I need to figure out what's going on. But because of my childhood abuse...
Ben Thorpe, you did not BTFO Mr. Girl when you spoke recently, because you agreed to answer a question and you pussied out when he made good on the deal. So you didn't actually hold up your end of the bargain, did you?
I get more scared.
You got raped.
The more I figure out what's going on, because I'm not allowed to figure out what's going on. That's one of the things that would trigger abuse. So I have no escape.
This is one of the few channels that hasn't yet banned
I
me.
don't feel blissfully ignorant about anything. I feel scared when I'm ignorant. So then I try to figure things out. And then I feel like I will be killed if I do that. And especially if I'm good at it. So I don't really have a mechanism for getting to any type of psychological safety. I think maybe except acting like a child and Shaylin or various other people taking care of me.
If you begged me to armchair diagnose him, I would throw my arms up and say, covert borderline personality disorder. Easily mistaken for something called quiet borderline. Covert borderline is an unofficial diagnosis proposed by Sam Vaknin, a leading expert in cluster B personality disorders. Vaknin claims that the gender bias in psychology leads us to ignore covert borderline, which is more common in men than women. For this reason, we confuse covert BPD with narcissism. Max isn't a narcissist, he's a woman. He's Mr. Girl. Okay. Unlike classic BPD, covert BPD is not associated with suicidal ideation. Emotional dysregulation is a core feature of all BPD, but the covert borderline has an internal locus of control. To compensate for his constant baseline of turmoil, the covert borderline relies on his intelligence as a coping mechanism. He's hypervigilant to moderate his effect on others and uses intellect to control situations and rationalize his emotions. He's also hypervigilant of his health. Although he's prone to substance abuse, he will often sublimate his emotions with socially acceptable hobbies instead, which he pursues obsessively. The covert borderline is idiosyncratically ethical. It's his way or the highway. He's preoccupied with fantasies of perfected love, meaning he needs to feel loved at his worst. Max is 38. If he has BPD, many traits are likely in remission, which he experiences as being more emotionally regulated. Personality disorders are not an objective fact. They're a narrative tool. If covert BPD was a map, it would be good enough to guide you around the commercial district of Max's brain. But I see myself in Max. What does that say about me?
If I'm not convulsing, throwing up, possibly just outright passing out and dying, I'm gonna be disappointed. Let's set ourselves on fire.
Max is the science experiment of his narcissistic father. Oh, there's probably some truth in this because his dad's like a fucking psychologist, isn't he? An expert in child abuse, and the reason Max hates net good arguments, I'm sure it's been said that his father had a net good impact on the world. Meanwhile, Max will be brain damaged forever. Like me, and maybe some of you, Max is unwittingly drawn towards people like Destiny because they fill the role of his father. Max told Destiny he loved him after only 2 conversations. Because of his father, Max often expresses love through criticism. Likewise, if you criticize Max, he can be at peace with your love. He doesn't need to be so vigilant if you can stand up for yourself. Otherwise, someone needs to pick up the slack, and that's him. Jesus. He sees himself as a monster. If you don't love a monster, can we really call it love? No. Not until you're both stripped of all your scales and bleeding on the floor. That's love, baby. Max pours acid on his own self-narrative. It's no surprise that he finds relief by contemplating black holes. There's literally no limit on the amount of abuse a black hole can take. He generally pours the narrative acid on everyone around him, inviting them into his world of chemical mush. Okay, this is just cringe. Sometimes they freak out in his stream and leave. This is like trite and kind of lame. Trying too hard to be expressive. Sometimes they freak out in his stream and leave. Sometimes they love it. If you can stand him, he might be an asset to you. Maybe you'll want him to be your dad. That'll scare the shit out of him. Okay. He makes his deconstructive superpower very attractive. Like sticking his leg out from the gap in his dress. It's a source of strength, but if you love him for his strength, it's time you met the monster. It will let you down just like you predicted. Okay, and that's lyrics from Emily Dickinson. It's easy to be brave when you're filled with guilt. Max looks sane compared to the average internet sociopath. Vosh is pedo-jacketed for looking at Lolly. Intelligent women and men stay silent. Opportunists go for the easy kill. Retards take cheap shots for clout. So many cowards concerned with their image and petty grudges. Max will immolate himself, standing up for what he believes. He does it to stop the pain. He already can't live with himself. Very cringe. Writing this paper feels bad for my relationship with Max. Oh my god. I just think there's something. I mean, Smeth admits there's probably something fucking wrong with him. But there is absolutely something wrong with you if you're having this in-depth emotional response to your relationship with content creators. There's something has gone wrong here. I'm convinced he'll abandon me or something worse. I told him I was afraid to hurt him. I asked for his consent. His response was, I am God. Okay. He answered all my personal questions, but the more I understand, the more my heart seems to race. Eventually, it came to a head. I had a mental breakdown. I desperately messaged Max, nearly begging to be cared for like a child. He said nothing. I wrote about covert BPD because I wanted to understand what was wrong with Max. Now I've painted a clear picture, I see myself. The more aware I am, the more scared I become. It's what I've been struggling with in therapy. Underneath my intellectualizing and abstractions is an ocean of guilt. It rises up and attaches itself to anything I come into contact with. I've been avoiding it by keeping myself distracted and confused. With this new insight, familiar blurry shapes are coming into focus, and what I see ahead is pain. Jesus, dude. Okay, dude. Maybe keep this in therapy. I don't know if putting this on the internet was a great choice because this will probably be used against you. But sure, dude. Okay. A lot of this paper starts by journaling on my phone at work. It's moments like these that I'm most tortured by retail. Have a great day, and thanks for shopping, bitch.
But that's not the kind of power I'm talking about. I have not had, and maybe will not have, I don't know, an image that is seen as powerful or strong or commanding to outsiders, people who don't know me. It's a creepy power. It's a recessed thing. That's what I'm talking. It's a cave. And then if you go into the cave and you get to know me or my content, even interpersonally, this is how it is interpersonally. When people meet me and they, even if I'm like kind of boisterous or like the life of the party somewhere, I'm still not the life of the party on other people's terms. It's that I've terraformed the party. I've gotten my slime all over everybody and turned it into something else where it's like I'm something that you could crawl into. I saw worlds where I would be powerful on my terms. I wanted to get sucked into their worlds because I thought they would like me. But also, it was like a new way to think of how to stand up for myself, which is not to succeed on other people's terms, but to change the terms to my own.
Okay, epic. Ironically, talking about my relationship with Max has been the best way to differentiate. I mean, to be honest, Smeth should take some fucking advice from that. So talking about my relationship with Max has been the best way to differentiate myself. Even now, I mean, yeah, that's a kind of a problem, Smeth, is that the only way you've been able to differentiate yourself from Max is essentially being the Robin to the Batman, right? You've essentially had to make your entire content about your relationship with Max to stop being compared to him and instead just be like his internet son. This isn't really an improvement. I don't know, man. You might accuse me of attaching myself to Max, but nothing has changed. I'm being honest about the things people lie about or repress. I don't think everyone lies about and represses these things. I think everyone sees online content creators as like a skinwalking template or a father. Okay. If you were me, you wouldn't be caught dead talking about your relationship with Max. You wouldn't dare tell him how you feel. But the thing is that if they were... No, but... I don't like this at all because all your mental illnesses and all this, you're want to express this is why you're so close to Max. So, like, someone wouldn't even be in your position if they weren't like this in the first place. Like, this isn't really... Like, yeah, of course you're like that. But yeah, other people just don't feel the need to have long, overwrought discussions about their emotions towards content creators. I like to say the quiet part out loud. What's this? Don't be... Come on. You saying anything in this clip? Okay.
Fucking hate it. Hate you.
Okay, dude. It kept me sane growing up as a parentified only child with a narcissistic mother. I shared this gift with my classmates, teachers, and friends. It's gotten me into trouble and sometimes isolated me, but I'd rather be alone than have friends who force me to dissociate. For a while, I started to hide this part of myself, only opening up to a select few and holding everyone else at bay. Living with my parents as an adult, I learned to avoid them. My mother uses guilt to suffocate me. I'll be screaming as if I make space for myself. So I stopped trying. I thought I was protecting myself, but this was very bad for me. I realized then that I made my very first YouTube video. I realized that when I made my very first YouTube video. What's your very first YouTube video? Okay, you didn't make any before this? Okay. Should we watch this? I don't know. Let's 2x it and see if we can.
Guess I'm talking to myself. Guess I don't like talking to myself. What's wrong with that? I don't want my parents to see me talking to myself. I don't want my parents to see me doing anything. But I do believe in myself. It's also being outside, too. I think it's because it would have attracted extra attention if my parents saw me. I was just terrified of my parents. So I couldn't make the video. Now that I'm here, in the Discord dungeon, it's not so hard to talk to the camera. Gotta get some damn control over my life. What are the odds that was you messaging me? I think it'll be easier next time when I try to go out there and I try to make that video. Or however I do it, wherever I do it.
All right. Okay. It's just not great seeing like a 30-year-old man like hiding from his parents and shit. That's just. Oh, okay. Whatever, man. All right. Living with my parents as an adult, I learned to avoid them. My mother used guilt to suffocate me. I'm expecting myself to stop trying. At the same time, a close friend and mentor had a similar crushing effect. I made a video about him too. Jesus.
Once I start, it's all gonna come out. We were friends ever since high school. We only briefly separated during college, and then we got back together.
Oh my god, okay, yeah, I can't do this. Alright. I get the idea. You had a friend who was really mean to you for a long time. Okay. I made a video about him too. He convinced me to give up on art and embrace hustle culture. With him as my mentor, I rejected my passions and learned to use self-loathing as fuel. It didn't matter how miserable my life gets. The only thing that matters is money, his only passion. He tortured me as an extension of himself and devalued anything I could be proud of. Okay, but this is just based, though. This is just, this mentality, this is just based. That's based. That's based. That's epic. Just completely destroying your life in every aspect. At least I've got... At least I'm making YouTube ad revenue. His only passion. He tortured me as an extension of himself and devalued anything I could be proud of. Eventually, it was too much, and I cut him out of my life. Against the wishes of everyone around me, I reclaimed myself as an artist. The week I called into the Mr. Girl hotline was the week I quit my job at a nursing home to focus on applying for web dev jobs. I cleaned my room, took my art supplies out of my dog cage, and I bought red flashlights for Spirit Halloween. Wearing my only briefs, I called into the show from inside the cage. Wearing only briefs. I called into the show from inside the cage. It was supposed to be one last art project. Suddenly, I was an artist again. I behave like Max the more I'm aware of myself and others. Alternatively, I keep myself disassociated and confused. But Max is fucked up. He's like the girl at the gym who you can predict will get raped, but with... He's like the girl at the gym who you can predict will get raped. You know, that girl at the gym that you know you just know is going to get raped. You ever just look at a girl and go, she's getting raped? Do you ever do that? You guys ever do that? You guys ever out in public and you just look at a girl and you're like, yeah, she looks like the type who'd get raped. Oh, man. My roommates can hear what you're saying and they're judging me for it. Well, there's a bunch of people's roommates who might be watching right now who are just like, about to come into the other room. Are you chatting? Okay. People hold Max to outrageous standards and give him criticism they wouldn't give anyone else because he's asking for it. Max clues everyone in on his guilt by constantly imposing new limitations on himself and ranking himself lower and lower within his own hierarchy. He's even made this a core principle of his artistic mission. His fans and haters aren't much different. They answer his call by helping him brainstorm new and creative reasons why he's a horrible person. Since he's averse to admiration, he's more likely to respond warmly to criticism, so it's de facto the way that his fans express their love for him. Luckily, I don't have a compulsive need to enlist people around me to punish me. I've noticed that myself getting more anxious when I'm admired, so I'm glad I can learn from Max's shortcomings. I'll keep my masochism in the bedroom.
Oh, it's a little bit spooky in here. A little bit spooky. Well, it sounds a little spooky in here. It sounds spooky. But you know...
I'm not... should we watch this? I guess we'll watch this. Fuck it.
Oh, it's a little bit spooky in here. A little bit spooky. Well, it sounds a little spooky in here. It sounds spooky. But you know what's more spooky than that? You know what's more spooky than Findom? You know what's more spooky than sitting on the floor in your apartment with no furniture, clicking that fucking send button so you can give Shaylin another $500? Eventually, it's gonna get that bad. And then you're gonna die. But you know what? I start from the bottom, now I'm here. I start here and I get to the bottom. It's fucking life. But guess what? I don't fucking know. But you know what I'm saying. What you just do is just fucking don't do the Findom. And then get a bit different.
What is he doing here? What's the bit here?
You know, when I'm gonna give you a fucking flashback. I'm gonna give you a flashback to fucking. I'm gonna give you a flashback to fucking early 2000. Unit.
Okay, that's enough of that. I'm not worried about distinguishing myself artistically. My channel is about me, my thoughts, my feelings. Most people don't have it in them to do that. Being vulnerable is scary, it hurts, and it forces you to dig deep. I have no problem standing out. It's just like, why are you displaying your vulnerability to the fucking internet? Like, most people are vulnerable. They just don't fucking. It's just not for displaying to literally everyone. It's a fucking fly there. Literally not for displaying to like everyone in the world. You just don't walk around like trauma dumping on everyone you meet and fucking projecting out every negative experience you had with your parents as a child into a YouTube video. That's just not what most people do, dude. I don't know how else to explain this to you. I recently watched a drama streamer named Food Shops talking about me. Basically, she was posturing to her audience by giving me advice. I shouldn't talk about my relationship with Max. I'm doing something wrong if my channel isn't growing fast as a drama channel. Growing as fast as a drama channel. I get these comments from two groups of people, haters and bigger streamers that I antagonize. For example, I picked a fight with ChudLogic about being referred to as a hobbyist. But I mean, he was right about okay. Most big streamers let growth dictate their artistic decisions, but I'm clearly not like that. We're not a big streamer, first of all. I only want growth on my terms. Do you think I'm trying to grow as fast as possible when I spend a month writing an essay called Becoming Max? Of course not. No one's saying you are trying, that you should be trying even to grow as fast as possible, or that you should completely give up the artistic vision, simply that you should have more focus and create art projects localized around a topic that will garner you some attention instead of just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. But whatever, and create stuff consistently. That's probably the bigger thing. I'm building a different type of platform. It makes way more sense to compare me to Mr. Girl than it does to compare me to Food Shops. Do I agree with that? They're both skinwalkers. So which is it? Do you want me to stand out? Do you want me to do the same thing as everyone else? My content is deeply personal to me. Do you want me to design my personality around the algorithm? What do you want me to be? Mr. Beast? Destiny? When streamers say these things, I think part of them is jealous of me. Part of me is jealous too. I like money. When haters say these things, I think part of them wants me to go insane and kill myself. Would I ever want to become Max? Well, sorry, why would I ever want to become Max? What's wrong with me? Some people distance themselves from those they look up to. They're scared. Maybe they don't believe their work can stand on its own, or maybe they're afraid of rejection. Half of you fuckers are just going through the motions, covering the latest controversy, and trying to ride the slipstream of drama. Regardless of how easy I make it, You'll only understand me if you want to. For every 1 fan I get, I'll probably get 2 haters, and that's fun too. I'm glad I have Max to lean on. He's a train wreck, and I love him. Who else can you compare me to? I turned my nose up at content creation until I saw the success Max had. Not only that, I personally relate to him. He's like my dad. Have you ever watched The Patient? Steve Carell is a Jewish therapist who gets kidnapped by a serial killer, chained to a bed in his basement, and forced to do therapy until the patient is cured. That's kind of like me. I'm the Jewish therapist locked in Mr. Girl's base. I think, yeah, I mean, I feel like the joke there is that he's actually the other one. Right? Because you ain't the therapist in that analogy, bro. I hate to tell you. Jesus. Well, we got through the article. What do the comments say? Yeah, that looks gay. I'm going to need somebody to read it all in audio form. Well, we're all skinwalking today. This is like the Destiny report. I'm skinwalking Chud. Okay. There you go. Now give me $4 grand, however much fucking Chud made on that stream.